Hey everybody, this is Josh Runquist here, and it's time for the final episode of the top 10 albums of every year I've been alive, 1988 through 2022. Obviously not 2023 because the year is not done yet, but here we are at the top 10 albums of 2022. I want to thank you so much, whether you're just checking out the series for the first time with this video, you checked it out since I started with 1988, or anywhere in between. I thank you, and let's talk about these 10 albums that are the most fresh in my mind. The top 10 albums of 2022. Coming in at number 10 is In the Woods with Diversum. And what I think really works with In the Woods is the fact that every album is so different from each other. Part of that is because pretty much every album has a little bit of a different lineup behind it, but that also gives it different flavorings, and it's so great to see that. Of course, this album is no exception to that, with new vocals, new lineup going on, and it really is one of the darkest In the Woods albums to be out to date. While musically it may not sound that way, especially in the vocal territory where it starts to get some screams and growls in there, and especially when it hits some heavy emotions when it comes to mental health struggles. Yeah, this is one of the darkest In the Woods albums to date. I love the production of this album, I love the songwriting, and if you're just looking for something a bit darker on the progressive metal side, teetering on the progressive black metal side and gothic metal, you need to check out In the Woods, and specifically this brand new album, Diversum. Coming in at number 9 is Brimmer with Voices in the Sky, the perfect combination of power metal and black metal in unholy ceremony. Yeah, this album rules, and I easily think it's the best Brimmer album to date. While this album does focus much more on the power metal side, don't worry black metal fans, especially the latter part of the album really gets into that old school black metal territory that the band really used to be known for. But I love the combination that they do now of power metal and black metal. It works so perfectly together, and they do it right. It sounds so unholy, but it sounds so godly at the same time. It's amazing how that works, doesn't it? But yeah, if you've never checked out Brimmer, easily check out Voices in the Sky if you're a power metal fan or a black metal fan. I think you'll be able to find some appreciation here, and I know those two camps don't always work together, but Brimmer shows that it does. Coming in at number 8 is Gladenfold, or Gladenfold, I'm not entirely sure which way to say it, with Nemesis. And in speaking of being able to combine great genres together, melodeath, power metal, and symphonic metal working in perfect harmony. That's what Gladenfold does, and it happens to really help that they're a Finnish band who are so good at melodic death metal, the best country to produce melodic death metal. You know what I'm talking about. Gladenfold just continues that tradition of making some of the most melodic, catchy music out there, and adding their own spins of power metal and symphonic metal. It feels like Camelot and Symphony X work together with Omnium Gatherum and Insomnium. It just works so well together, and you'll find something to appreciate if you appreciate any of those styles together. This is a fantastic album, and you should check it out if it seems like it might be appealing to you. Coming in at number 7 is Electric Cowboy with Techno. I just gave this band a shot this year after I saw so many people talking about them last year, and I'm just going to describe the album in 3 words and move on to number 6. Big, dumb, fun. Coming in at number 6 is Summerlands, or Summerlands, depending on your pronunciation, with their sophomore album, Dreamkiller. And this album is absolutely killer. Pun kind of intended. This revival metal band really takes that late 70s through late 80s metal sound and totally makes it their own for 2022. Like I said, it has the revival metal sound, it's got speed metal, it's got heavy metal, it's got 80s pop synth occasionally as well, and some of the best vocals in revival metal. Seriously, this is such an underrated band, and they deserve to be much, much bigger than they are right now. If you love that classic metal sound and you're not checking out Summerlands, you are doing yourself a gigantic disservice. Seriously, go check them out. And making up for one of the biggest injustices that I did in my top 100 list last year, coming in at number 5 is An Abstract Illusion with Whoa. I originally had this album at number 49, and I feel like that was a huge mistake on my end. The reason that I gave it that low of a number in reference is only because I had just heard the album for the first time. And I wanted to be fair about it. Some of these albums I've heard for months, if not the entire year, and I just heard An Abstract Illusion, and I didn't want it to just think of like, oh, I just heard this is so great, I need to put this at number 1. I wanted to make sure that I actually enjoyed the album, and with time, I surely did. And even though being in number 49 out of nearly 200 albums that I listened to is pretty damn good, the album deserved to be much higher, and now I have it in my top 5 of 2022, deservingly so. It is one of the best albums of 2022. Progressive death metal mixed in with atmospheric death metal. It's like if you combine something like Edge of Sanity with Nightingale with Fallujah with The Contortionist. It is an odd combination on paper, but it works so perfectly in execution. And I need to give this album the respect it deserves. It is just that good. And if you're looking for some progressive death metal that is just going to make your jaw drop on the floor with its brilliance, its beauty, its emotional impact, and of course, the songwriting, you need to check out An Abstract Illusion, and you need to check out, even though it's their sophomore album, it is an absolute masterpiece known as Whoa. Coming in at number 4 is MMXX, or 2020, depending on how you want to pronounce it, with the soul album Sacred Cargo. I say soul album as they did release an EP of 3 songs that did not fit the album this year, and that's it. It's a one-off project, but I love everything about it. Featuring an all-star cast of some of the greatest voices in doomy, gothic death metal, from Swallow the Sun, to Edge of Sanity, to Antimatter, and so much more. This band is something that I wish was going to be able to continue on, but sadly will not. But it feels like the perfect starter album to get into doom. And what I mean by that is like the melodic doom metal, death doom, funeral doom metal. Not so much the stoner doom or stoner stuff, like real doom. The songs are so emotionally impactful, they can bring tears to my eyes. The vocal performances of all the guest stars on this album is simply incredible, and of course, the songwriting of the band is incredible as well. This is a perfect introduction into getting into the doom style, and this is an album that went severely under the radar. I tried to help out the best I could. I know I got a couple people into it, but that's just not enough. I need you to check it out as well. If you want to find out what I love about one of my favorite genres of all time, please check out Sacred Cargo, and I think you'll be glad that you did. Coming in at number 3 is Power Paladin with one of my favorite power metal albums of all time, with the magic of Wind, Fire, Steel. Even though this is a debut album, it is one of the most proficient power metal albums I've ever heard. It is just so much fun, it covers so much of what I love about comics, video games, nerd culture in general, and it's all done with such a musical proficiency that'll make your jaw drop. And you have so much fun with it as well. I mean, you have a song like Kraven the Hunter, which is going to become much more important now to people outside of comics as he's going to be a part of Spider-Man 2, so you'll be able to hear a little bit more of the backstory of that villain. You have a song like Righteous Fury that is about Link from The Legend of Zelda, and it even breaks into the theme from The Legend of Zelda. That is so cool, and it made me laugh in enjoyment and so much fun the first time I heard it. This is just a fun album. It's cheesy as all get-go, but sometimes you need that cheese and I will eat it right up. It is so much fun, it is so cool to listen to, and if this is what they're capable of with their debut album, I can't wait to find out what happens with their sophomore album. Coming in at number 2 is Hangman's Chair with A Loner. I love this album. It is a fantastic representation of dealing with mental health struggles, which is something you'll also see in my top album of the year, but this is done a little bit different. More on the gothic side, more on the doomy side, and a little bit of 80s alternative thrown in for good measure. And of course, not everybody handles mental health the same way, and the basic message of this album is sometimes it's better to deal with things alone. Sometimes that's the way that you get through without everyone trying to push you one way or the other on how to live your life. Sometimes you just gotta deal with it alone. And that can be very peaceful, especially like during the pandemic when I did an interview with Hangmans Chair, talking about the idea of just being able to separate yourself from the world, focus on what you need to, and be able to carry on. And this album really got the attention of a lot of people, and I'm so happy to see it. They were able to line up some great tours, like opening for Paradise Lost. I was so happy to see that, and I can't wait to see what comes next. I really hope they come here to the States. I need to hear these songs in a live setting. And this is the new direction of the band. They focused a little bit more on the stoner doom kind of side before this. This is the album where they started to go more into the melodic doom, gothic doom, alternative metal side, and I really hope that they continue this direction, because if this is what they do on the first go around with how it sounds like this, I feel like the next album that they do in this style will be my favorite album of the year, but time will tell. And finally at number 1, my favorite album of 2022 is still Tomorrow with their debut album Ash in Realms of Stone Icons. This album hit me like a ton of bricks when I first heard it, and I heard it months after it came out, but it hit me at the right time and it's never let go. Progressive black metal and technical death metal, like you wouldn't necessarily think that they would fit together. For some people it's like, well, isn't that the same thing? No, it's not. And you can distinctly hear that when you hear this. But of course musically it is technically profound, with amazing songwriting that goes into it, with beautiful melodies and harmonies mixed in within the chaos. But what really sells this is the vocals and the lyrics for me, as this dives so deep into mental health struggles. It feels like your soul is being torn apart, and for someone like me who's been through, at least on paper when it comes to the lyrics, very similar emotions and feelings with dealing with mental illness, I can relate to this so very, very much. And when you combine the music and the lyrics all together, especially towards the end of the album, I just start tearing up so hard. And when an album can make you cry, that is an album that you should hold on to, because it makes you actually feel something. And that is a damn good feeling. Even if it is sad, it is very, very cathartic. And I'm glad to see that this band has actually gotten some great recognition. I know because of me, more people got to check this out, which I'm very happy about. They got to land on some touring, which is fantastic to see. And a couple members of the band also have another project called Lunar Chamber, who released an EP this year, which is fantastic stuff. If I covered EPs, that would definitely be very high on the list, but it is an EP. But if you want to see a different side of what Lunar Chamber is about, if you're more familiar with them, you should go check out Tomorrow. It is magnificently dark and beautiful at the same time. And again, as I've said a few times here, if this is what they can do on their debut album, their sophomore album is going to be a magnum opus of something I can't even fathom. I can't wait. And there you have it, folks. Not just the end of my top 10 albums of 2022, not just the end of the 2020 so far, but the end of this entire 34-part series of the top 10 albums of every year I've been alive, 1988 through 2022. I can't believe this is done. The day that you're seeing this is my 35th birthday. I'm recording this well in advance, and just the thought of me turning 35 is really scary to me. I didn't think I was even going to make it this long due to mental health struggles and many other things that have been going on in my life over my entire life. But I'm so thankful that I'm still here. I'm thankful I get to keep going on. And in the case of everything here, I'm glad I got to show you 340 albums that you agree, disagree, or haven't discovered yet that should be on these lists. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, let me know. What was your favorite year that I covered? What are your favorite albums that I've done and covered? Like, what are your favorite albums in general? Let me know down below. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. And once again, I thank you so very, very much. And until my next kind of top 10 video, whether it's a one-off or a series, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but that'll come in time. my next interview, review, or any other type of video that I do here for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel. For Heavy Debriefings, as Josh Runk was saying, thank you very much for tuning into this series, and of course, see ya.